right? I can't think of anything better. The fact that they aren't talking about our team with the depth that we have in every position, I'm saying it to every spoken, right? Back in supposed face-off guy, our mids and our back. Get the best players at each respective.
Get the run.
Saying what we did. We set the tone. They got to follow our rule. You guys understand that? And that comes down to you handling the role, embracing it. Listen to me. We don't give a who plays. This is about winning, and that's it. 1, 2, 3. Ah!
All right, because that's gonna bother me, and it sounds like it doesn't work at all from my end, so I'll just say it that way. We're back. I think we're probably gonna. I didn't talk about this before, but I think probably monthly, possibly.
Yeah, or if something else comes up that's something that comes up that we feel the need to talk about, we'll do one sooner. But
we'll probably do a shorter one if that happens, but. Probably monthly PLL updates with Matt because he has media credentials now. I just want to get that rumor out there so that way if somebody wants to yell at him, they can. I'll let you get your plug out of the way first, and then we'll get into the list that the host Matt had sent me for tonight.
Well, I want to say first, Dan, I've missed talking to you weekly, buddy.
Yeah,
I got so used to doing it, and then we get ready to do it again. I'm like, man, It's been a while. I miss my buddy Dan.
You know what? You notice how I didn't say anything? I just let you talk, and then I was like, "Yeah, Matt, go ahead, go."
Sure, I definitely miss talking to you on a weekly basis. So shameless plug, shameless self plug. Anybody who collects lacrosse cards or maybe is interested in collecting lacrosse cards, I've got specifically a stack of all recent Cuse alums, including Jake Stevens, Cole Kurse, Brett Kennedy, Peter Dirth, Joel White, Matt Abbott, Rafus, Trimboli, Jeremy Thompson, Stats, Cody Jamieson, Warren Hill, Brendan Bomberry, etc. And then I've also got a smaller stack of some of the ladies. So Emily Harris, Chuck, Sam Swart, Haley Majorana, Ella Simpkins, and Becca Block. So if anybody's interested, hit me up on Twitter or Instagram at Matt Shaler. I can't sell on the Syracuse Lacrosse Facebook group because selling's not allowed. So hit me up.
My question for you is, I know you have the list. Yep. Are there any ones that you're specifically looking for out of that list that you can name off the top of your head? How about that?
The ones that I want?
Well, that way, if somebody has them, they can also reach out and say, hey, Matt, I need that Jake Stevens, but I
need a ton of random cards.
Okay. People reach out to Matt. That's the way that I'll say it. Because if you want to trade or sell, I know Matt's.
Yep. Or if you know folks who collect too, I'm always looking for people to connect with, specifically people who are local, because then we don't have to pay for shipping. So, hit me up.
Let's talk about. We're going to talk about Matt's card business for a whole episode, though, because there's a list of things that I have scheduled. I still have the open forum in my brain. I know people responded on the Facebook group.
Yep.
I'll be perfectly honest. I just have to figure out the time to do that with 75 other things not related to this. I'll just phrase it that way. Anyways, though, right? So since we last talked, there's been a hire.
There has been.
And
much to our surprise.
I was just going to say, because everything that we all heard was it was going to be a slow process. That's the way that I'll say it. and I didn't think we'd already have a name. And you know what, Matt? I'm going to do my pedestal for this one. This guy is a hometown person for me.
Yep.
And I'm very happy to see him get a shot. That's the way that I can say it publicly without getting myself in trouble. That's the way that I'll phrase it. But I'm very happy to have him back in this area.
Mm-hmm.
That's the easiest way I can say it. I'm not going to give the Matt 5-minute speech about how he's great, how he coached my 6 nephew removed.
Well, you're a Jordan Elbridge guy. He's a Jordan Elbridge guy. You got
Yeah.
connections to him, so it probably
Yeah.
feels extra special for you, Uh-oh. Am I losing you, Dan?
That's all I'm going to say.
There we go.
And so we talked about it. Yeah. It's Reggie Thorpe. Nope.
Yep.
There we go. We're back. Everything,
Okay.
like I said, we didn't lose technical issues. That's the one thing we didn't lose. It's Reggie Thorpe, though.
Yep.
He did the official press conference today.
Yep.
I think that's the first time I've seen him publicly, honestly.
Yep. Officially introduced this afternoon. Yep.
Yeah. And then he did his radio tour, and there was a lot that was said. So I'll touch on the Kayla stuff that you and I were talking about before, and that just kind of reading in between the lines. It sounded like Kayla was interested in Penn State. I think we all obviously can figure that out but I'll just say it didn't sound like Syracuse pushed to have her stay. That's the way that I'll say it.
Yeah.
It was like, okay.
Well, it was one of those things too, where like when it was announced that she was leaving, it just made sense.
Yeah.
Given some of the stuff that happened off the field at the end of last season.
Yep.
And not needing to get into any details, but like
nope.
It gave both the program and her a chance for a fresh start to start new, remove themselves from that whatever happened.
Yep.
And then, I think we both would agree that I'm happy for Kayla. I'm glad that she gets a chance to do that, and I hope that she finds a lot of success. But also super excited for Reggie to get a chance to be the next coach and see what he can do with the program. I will admit that I don't know a lot about Reggie other than he's an alum. He was a successful alum. He's been successful coaching in various ways, whether it's national teams or women's programs or whatever. But it's from everything I've seen, it's been really well received, particularly from the alumni side, which that to me speaks a lot. Like, especially knowing that I don't know a lot, it speaks a lot knowing that the alumna, I should say, are happy about it. And I think it was Morgan Alexander was on Q Sports Talk last week, and I listened to that, and I was like, okay, like that kind of gave me an idea of like what he's like and why the players like the alums like him. So, I think it'll be good, and I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see what they can do.
I was going to say, so I can speak from the more personal side. Now, obviously, college, high school, two different animals.
Yep.
We all know that. He was my assistant coach in high school.
Yep.
So what those players talked about in the interviews that you and I have heard is exactly how he is and how he always has been since I've known him. He has been a family first person, treats his players like family, will rib you a little bit, give you a little bit of ribbing, but like nothing like too crazy. Like he's the fun loving guy. And I hope that truly shows when he gets on the field at Syracuse.
Yeah.
I'll just say it that way. Because like everything is glowing. This is one of those hires where it's a home run hire if certain things happen. That's the way that I'll say it.
Yeah.
And to get him back here where he belongs, I can say that as somebody who grew up in the area that he lives still.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I hate to say it this way. It kind of brought like tears to my eyes. I was like, holy cow, like this guy, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like it was like, oh, I'm not tears, obviously, but like so there's a
little emotion to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I was like, oh.
So it's
Yeah.
not just that he's an alum of the program, but he's a local to the area, right? Like, so
Yeah.
it's not just coming home in a sense of like coming back to Syracuse, but
Moved
like
away. Yeah.
coming home. Like this is where he's from. I'm sure his parents still live here, or his dad. I
They
heard in the press conference that his mom had passed like a year or so ago. But like,
the whole family still lives in the area. I can confirm that part.
yeah, so like
So
so that adds an extra level of like specialness to it, right? Like,
yeah.
it was awesome to have Gary, come back to the men's program, but like
Yeah.
he isn't from the area, so like it adds that extra layer of like
Yep.
to it. So
It's kind of funny because I texted my dad and I said, we joked about this. I go, I kind of want to go to more women's games now just because of for the personal connection.
yeah, that makes sense. That totally makes sense.
I'm like,
Well,
I
then you can
kind of
get some
want
more stuff for the pod. We could talk the women's program.
Nah, I don't know about that part. No, but like, you're right though. Like, then it's because I have to learn the women's game. I'll be honest, I've been blunt about that. Seeing it in person and having it explained to him, and I'm efforting to get him. I'll just say it that way. I've reached out to a couple of people, and
say who's got the connections now, right, Dan?
You still have more than me. That's your connection could probably land him faster than my connection will. I'll just say it that way. I think we both know who I'm talking about, but
Yeah.
we'll leave it for all the guests. I'll ask it this way though, right? Because like we saw the press conference today. Besides Joe, which is what everybody wanted, was there anybody else that you would have hoped would have gotten it? Not the names mentioned.
Not
that we're not happy for Reggie, obviously, but
no. I mean, like I said, not knowing a lot about Reggie other than a tiny bit, like he wasn't even on my radar. It was
right.
Joe, and then probably right after that, honestly, was Michelle.
I was gonna say that was the name that I had, and
yeah, she was my next one. Like because I knew more about her being a more recent player. And I think I would have put her ahead of like Katie Rowan Thompson a little bit, just because the quickness in which she's turned around that Army program, and also knowing that it's extra hard to recruit at a military academy too.
Yep.
Because it's limited in who you'll get. Like, that spoke a lot more to me. And not that Katie Rowan Thompson's doing a bad job, but like, that was kind of my order. It was Joe, then her, and then maybe Katie.
Right.
But I'm, and that's why the response from the alums means so much to me, like as a fan, because like not knowing a lot about him specifically, it's like, all right, this means something, and it sounds like it was a good hire because of the response. So
yeah, and I think the only one that I actually heard, I think Higgins was one of the only ones who brought up that name, Reggie's name, to be fair.
Of the media,
I don't know the other ones that I listened to. I don't know if he was mentioned by other people, but I know Higgins, that was one of the names he said immediately.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's probably why he flew under the radar, right? Because no one else was really talking about it.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I'm curious to see what he does with the staff. It sounds like 2 of the coaches are going to be retained. So it sounds like that.
Well, it sounds like he's had connections with both of them too.
Yeah, that's the way that I took it from the press conference today. Now that's, once again, my hands are up here. I'm not reaching out to connection like Matt is right now. That's all I'm going to say. So I'm not reaching out, but not knowing how a coach puts his staff together, my guess would be that those 2 are on the staff, and then you figure out a couple other pieces. I'll just say it that way.
Yeah.
Here's the way that I'll ask this to you, and this is perfect because we both know 0 about the women's. Okay?
Yep.
I'm going to put your feet to the fire right now.
Okay, let's hear it.
and Tim's gonna love this question because he asked me this, and I'm gonna give. Does the women's team win a title before the men's?
Oh, geez. I mean, based on expectations of the men's program, I
Correct.
would say no.
Okay.
Just because that's the next step, right? Like,
Yep.
especially
Yep.
this senior class.
Yep.
So I would say no because I think Reggie's got work to do because I think he's at the point right now where Gary like started
Yeah, I was actually going to agree with you 100%.
because he's got a lot of young players that are now going to be most of
Right.
their contributors are going to be sophomores.
Yep.
So he's kind of where they should make the tournament, win a game, maybe two.
Yep.
I guess it depends on I don't know what the transfer portal looks like on the women's side in terms of what players are in there or available or top. Like, I don't know. You know, maybe he pulls some of his ladies from Florida to like that stuff happens sometimes. Like
Yeah.
like that goalie that went with Kayla to Penn State, the top goalie in that class. That stuff happens. So, you know,
Right.
maybe he pulls a couple players from Florida that
And
we
then
don't know about.
there was the kid from FM, I think, right? FM, who committed to SU right away. So like things like that happened too. She had committed to I can't think of the name.
Okay.
And I'm gonna kick myself because I was looking this up. She had committed to Loyola originally, and then when Reggie was announced, she flipped to Syracuse. So
Okay.
keep an eye out for that too, because I'm not saying that a recruit in Clemson is gonna flip. I'm just saying that there are possible recruits that are gonna flip SU that Reggie probably recruited to Florida. I'll just phrase it that way. And that's not knowing anything.
I mean, it happens because that's the coach that recruited you, right? So you want to go where the coach is.
Yeah, I would say keep an eye on the portal because I would be willing to bet he's going to be very active, is how I'll phrase it. Now, once again, that's not
Taylor Novak.
Yes.
Yep.
It was,
you're right. FM. You're right.
FM? Okay. I don't know anything about her as a player, to be perfectly honest. I just saw I was a clickbait headline person. I'll be brutally honest with that.
Yeah.
And I know you're reading the article that you paid $7.99 for. So
I'm looking at the forums real quick just to see what.
Oh, okay. See, Matt, you know, guys, I just want this to be noted. I'm focused. Matt's looking at forums, not even paying attention to anything I'm saying. Just want that. I'll throw this out to you though. Knowing what you just said, this is gonna kill me because Alex is gonna hear this and he's gonna run with this. So I just want you to prepare yourself.
Okay. Oh, you cut out again.
I think within 4 years. Yep, man, my internet's gonna be my laptop's about to get thrown. Are you good again? Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. No. Did I lose him again? Do I need to vamp? There we go.
Oh boy. Are we back?
Yep, I think so.
Okay. Okay. I apologize. My internet is being wonky.
Alex is working his tech magic behind the scenes on Twitter.
So what I was gonna say is I think the women's are on the same projection as the men's without knowing anything. And by that I mean I think you said it, but like so this year it's make the tournament.
Yeah.
I think within 4 years they'll have a championship is the way that I'll say it.
That'd be cool.
And there's people that will jump off the bridge with that because of how it's phrased. I'm not saying they will. I'm just saying the coach that I know, I'll just phrase it that way, will have that team motivated for the first game. That's the way that I'll say it. So
yeah.
And that's knowing nothing official. Once again, let's switch to the topics that Matt does know something about, since he doesn't pay attention to any. This is your wheelhouse now. This is all.
I pay attention to the women in that I will go to maybe a game a season, and I will pay attention to the stats and watch some of the game.
Right.
I don't entirely know what's happening the whole time. but
Right.
I'll watch like the
I had
on
to,
ESPN or something.
I
But
got to throw the shots there, okay? Let me throw little jabs.
that's okay.
Because now you got the chance to give it right back to me once we get. We'll go the transfer portal first, and
Okay.
then I'll launch into the Matt segment where you can tell everybody all the boring stats about people retiring and people finally playing.
So we'll start with a negative.
Yep.
But it was kind of expected because he had already graduated and whatever. But Burt Whistle is officially going to Ohio State, which I'm super happy for him.
Yeah, you might be the only one.
I know because you hate Ohio State.
I wanted him to go somewhere else. I have more transfer portal stuff that I thought of just now, but we'll get to that. Go with that. It's not Syracuse. It is, but it isn't Syracuse.
Okay. But yeah, so he is taking his last year eligibility at Ohio State. It makes sense because he was already done with his degree. Kind of all the guys he graduated with are now gone.
Yep.
So it just makes sense. I was just happy it wasn't an ACC team. Like that's ultimately like whenever a guy's going to transfer away from SU, I'm like, just don't go to an ACC school. Don't go to an ACC school.
Yeah.
And so happy for him. I think he'll do well there because I think he'll run at their midfield.
Right.
And he'll be able to sling the rock. So that's good for him. Excited for him. I had actually, when he posted on Instagram, like some pictures and like celebrating his time at SU. This was before it was announced. I messaged him and was like, was bummed to see how your career ended here. Yeah. Excited for whatever is next for you. Like, go get him, dude, kind of thing. And he sent a nice response back. The only other. Yep, I got connections everywhere because I will shamelessly message anybody. I do not give a shit.
Except for the one person I want you to message, but we don't have to do this. We haven't.
Listen, I followed up again and I have not heard back.
Okay. That's between you and I. Obviously, you know what I'm talking about. So.
Yes, I do. I'm looking at the forums again. I pulled up the potential roster page, and it looks like also Finn Kelly is using his last year eligibility to play at Tampa,
and Rowley, Kyle Rowley also entered the portal. I don't know if he committed somewhere.
Yeah, so the ones I see in the portal are Kelly, Kyle Gonzurek.
Go. You vamp on that name for.
So then Burt Whistle, Paul LaMonica, and Kyle Rowley are all listed as portal people. The only people listed that have a place right now are Burt Whistle and then Finn Kelly, which Tampa crushes it at getting
D1 kids
that excel at D2.
It's insane. It is truly insane.
It kind of reminds me of Mikey Berkman going to Rollins. When he transferred to Rollins, and he crushed it his last 2 years at Rollins. Like, I hope that happens for Finn Kelly because good for him. Because then all the rest of the senior guys are completely out of eligibility, so they're out. So, and there's no other word of anybody leaving as of right now that I've heard of.
I haven't seen anything. Once again, we know how things can happen. Things can get crazy, and somebody can come out of the woodwork.
And from what I've heard, Levine is planning to come back.
That's
rumor. That's nothing official.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's what I've heard as well.
With his injury and when it happened, what everybody's saying is that if he does come back, he will miss all of fall ball and will be ready for spring. So I
got to be honest, I'm okay with that though, as long as he's back healthy for spring.
And that's a good transition into our one pickup so far is Dante Bowen from Ohio State. So it's kind of almost a 1-for-1 swap,
right?
With Burt Whistle, which I knew I recognized that name when I saw it. He actually played with Joey and Trey and Donnie Scott and Jake last year.
Okay.
With Orangeville up north.
Okay.
And I remember he was like just a bruiser, defensive kind of guy.
Right.
So I think he'll be great for us. I think that really bolsters our short stick D mid room. I know he didn't get a ton of play at Ohio State. He got limited minutes, but they had a very strong short stick defensive midfield unit. So I could very easily see him being the second or third guy.
Right.
Depending on if Levine comes back, he might be 2. If Levine doesn't come back, he might be, higher, like who knows. And then, that room, if Levine comes back, that room actually looks pretty solid between Levine, Ryder being a third or fourth guy.
Yep.
Bowen, you got Jake still. And then you got the freshman who I saw the clip of him leveling a guy that recently in one of his playoff games in high school, which, it's high school, it's different, but still, like, he seems like a bruiser kind of guy too.
Yep.
So I think that's a nice piece. I think that where we still need some work is in the face-off area.
Yep.
If I had to pick somewhere, I don't know how much is left talent-wise from the face-off area. I know Maryland got, who the hell was it? I think Dodge from Vermont, which was a good pickup for them, which I freaking hate. There was another halfway decent face-off guy that could be a guy to spell Mullen. His name's Mullins. The other guy, I can't remember what school he's from, but that'd be cool if our face-off guys were Mullen and Mullins.
I'm just pulling this up.
Yeah, you're good. It is Dodge from Vermont.
Yep.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I had to pull that up because trying to going through their website.
And then Colsey transferred.
Yeah,
to
I was just gonna. That was gonna be my point. Is I think I heard it. I heard it on. I don't. Is it official? Do we know?
Yeah,
If
it got
official?
announced.
Okay. Because that's a name that you and I were messaging about. Obviously.
Yeah.
That I wanted because of the legacy, if nothing else.
Well,
Yeah, I don't have a lot of nice things to say about that. That's the way that I'll phrase it.
Well, him specifically, because it's the younger one of the two, he would have been a perfect grab for Cuse in terms of he's not going to start an attack obviously this year.
Yeah,
but then all the guys that are leaving after this year, he could have then slid into an attack spot.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I don't know what their plans are for the recruits, right? Like, so you gotta bring in guys, but not also not mess with the guys you're bringing in, and maybe push them away because you want to keep the guys you originally recruited or hope to. So, I don't even know if Cuse had reached out or whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
but I kind of the same boat. Like, I like the idea of legacies.
Yep.
Like, but it is what it is.
I mean, I'll say it this way. I hope they reached out. That's how I'll say it.
Yeah, I would hope
if
so
nothing,
too.
if nothing else, just to get a feeler, like, hey, we might be interested in you. Where are you thinking? Hot, cold, kind of thing.
Yeah. Almost as a courtesy because they are a legacy.
Yeah,
and not just like, and I'm not saying any legacy, like, but
No.
like Colsey's a big name and his kids are good players, right? Like,
yeah. And,
so
yeah, I don't know anything official. I'll just say it that way. I legit don't know if they reached out. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about that, and I got burned by a source on something else. Is all I'm going to say. So I'm keeping my sources closer to the vest, as Matt knows what I'm talking about. So,
question: I'm looking at the potential roster for 2026. Is Liam Banks? Is that Liam Banks' son? Do we know that?
That is
LB3's son.
LB3. Yes, I think that's. Remember, you and I talked about somebody possibly joining, and that person had to talk to their kids. Let's just say.
Yep.
Okay, that's why. So,
yep.
For that one, obviously, people can put it together. Who I'm talking about. I'll just say, I reached out to Liam Banks, and I haven't heard things back. Is what I'll say. I want it because he's a good one, right? Like we can
and
Well, he's got connections to both the men's and women's program.
Yeah,
His daughter.
I was just gonna say that's exactly why he's a perfect person to get on, right? Because he watches enough of the women's side.
Yep.
And obviously he knows the men's side.
Yep.
But Matt's wheelhouse is the PLL, so we talked about a legacy.
Before we go to PLL, hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
Pause. We got to talk about current players and what they're doing first, and then we'll go to PLL.
Okay. Oh, you want to do that first?
Yep, we'll do that first.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead. I'm just gonna sit back on mute and let you do this all by yourself. So Matt's international lacrosse. This is this segment.
So, and these stats might be a couple days old because I wrote them down, I think, on Monday. So if someone might have had a game in between, there might be stuff off. But a bunch of the guys are playing all over the place, particularly up in Canada.
Yep.
Which is awesome to see.
Yep.
Actually, side note, I saw Tucker Kellogg on Monday. Ran into him on my way to my son's game.
I know why you ran into him. You can say it. I think you've already said why. So,
he was practicing at Liverpool using their turf. There's a little next to the tennis courts. There's a fenced-in turf area. They have a lacrosse goal set up. So he was getting
that
reps.
Wasn't what I thought you were going to talk about for that reason. So,
but I do have to connect with him about getting his stick strung. But he was there and I said hello and he goes, I said, "Oh, how's your summer going? You playing in the summer league?" He said, "Oh yeah." He goes, "Yeah, I'm trimming pounds." So he's in full on get ready for next season mode. Almost kind of it reminds me of Hiltz for this year.
Okay.
Seems like he's slimming down, getting after it. So good for him because I'm hoping that he can slide in and be a role now that some spots opened up. So
that man up position.
Yep.
Let's just write that way. Yeah, go ahead.
Depending on how he does, he could, there's going to be a spot maybe or two open on the second line. So, anyways, so we'll start with Joey. So Joey's playing Junior B up in Canada.
Right.
For the Snake Island Muskies. I follow their social media now. I reached out to them to be like, "Hey, where can you see the games?" Because they're not anywhere.
Yep.
They said they're hoping to have some games later in the season streamed, so who friggin' knows? But
I think they were on YouTube for a little bit, right? Or am I thinking different Joey team? My brain.
Are you thinking of last year? Last year
they had it on the YouTube. If I were them, I'd probably have them on the YouTube again because the amount of people that watch them just from the Syracuse area probably made them some dough. Let's just say it that way.
Yep, I would watch them. That's why I was asking. And I've been touching base with Joey to see how he's doing. He's been having some good games. He went 1-6 one game, 4-2 another. So he's crushing it. And he's able to do his thing up there and keep working on his craft. And so I'm pumped that he's able to do that. So and then the guys who played with him last year in Orangeville, the Orangeville Northmen, Trey Deere and Donnie Scott are both getting lots of run on their team. Again, this year, through 5 games, Trey's got almost 20 points, 10 goals, and 9 assists. In one of their games, he was a player of the game. Donnie Scott he plays defense, obviously. He got a player of the game for one of their games too, which a defender getting a player of the game doesn't happen very often. So that was cool. And he's got a couple goals and a couple assists. So, so he's doing well. I was happy to see Ted Rawson, who's one of our incoming freshmen. I think he's the Lawrenceville kid. If I remember correctly.
I think look it up in 2 seconds. If you vamp for,
I'll keep talking. But he's playing for the Burlington Blaze up there.
I have it already.
He is Lawrenceville. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
So he's probably one of our top freshmen coming in, and the fact that he's playing up north this summer makes me happy to see that. And he's got through 4 games, he's got 10 points. So he's doing pretty well. Dante Bowen, our transfer coming in, he's playing in the MSL, so Junior A, which is the highest level of box in the summer.
Yep.
That's a lot of the NLL guys play in the MSL over the summer when it's not during the NLL. Like the Six Nations team is like the old school Yankees where they're just freaking stacked.
Okay.
We talk about it all the time in some of the lacrosse group chats. Like, I don't know where this team is getting this money from to pay these players, but like they're pulling guys from the PLL to come play. Like it's got Josh Byrne and Dane Smith and Ian McKay, Lyle Thompson. Like,
Let's say there's some money being tossed around. Let's just
yeah, like it's literally an all-star roster, and they're destroying everybody every
to
game.
get somebody like Josh Byrne and Dane alone.
Yep. But then you got Lyle already on the team. Like
Yeah.
it's just it's insane. So he's playing for Brampton. And Brian, look up one of Brian's old posts, folks. Dante had a sick twister goal. So I think he's going to be one of those guys that can potentially get up in transition, just seeing some of his stick ability and knowing that he played up north.
Right.
He's playing up north. I think he might be one of those guys that can push it in transition for us, which would be cool. And then finally, Owen O'Farrell is actually playing Junior A out in British Columbia for the Victoria Shamrocks.
Nice. Good
which
to
is
see.
cool. Yeah. Another guy who, especially after next season, is a guy that's primed to slide right into a role. And he showed some flashes at the end of some of those games where we were up a lot, and he got some time and scored a few goals. Like he's got some of those abilities. So, and through 4 games, he's got about 10 points too. So he's getting a couple points a game. So super pumped for him. So yeah, those are the updates I have so far. And in a month we'll update everybody.
I was going to say,
where things are at.
there might be some. I don't know. You might know this better than me. Can players commit later? Are there players? So, like, if a Kellogg wanted to play, could he still play?
I think at this point it's already
locked. Okay,
yeah,
that's fine.
But there's plenty of like high level rec leagues that guys playing over the summer. Like I know Tucker, for example, he plays in like all the college age guys rec league in this area over the summer.
Yeah, that's just an example because of what you said.
Yeah.
I just didn't know because obviously that everybody's playing somewhere.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of figuring out.
If they're not, that's a problem.
Yeah. If they're not, and that is on a Tuesday night. I'll just say
I played twice this week, Sunday and Tuesday. So holler at your boy.
Yeah, that's good. That's great. More power to you.
Shout out to my wife for letting me go on Tuesday, even though I'm playing on Sundays over the summer.
I was just gonna say that's the bigger win. You want to go PLL? You want to go?
Yeah, we can go PLL. So first, to start on a more negative note, it was announced I think last week, Tucker Dordovic officially medically retired. For anybody who didn't see last year, at the end of 2 seasons ago, he got injured.
Yep.
And then came back partway through last season, and then a few games in had a really bad jaw injury where like literally blood was spewing out of his mouth, and they had to like rush him off the field. And it wasn't a bad hit. I think it was just weird the way it hit him. But feel really bad for him. He's kind of he'll be one of those like what ifs, because his rookie year he got rookie of the year in the league and did really well, and he thrived on the 2-point shot because he had a freaking rocket. So kind of bummed. Not to get on a soapbox, but he's one of those guys he's one of those guys that wears his chin strap over his mouth too. And I don't know if that had any impact on when the hit happened, but
I know.
Boys, make sure you're wearing it on your chin.
I know which part I'm clipping. The part that says that part caused his injury and that part ruined his career. No, in all seriousness, wear the chin strap the right way is how I'll say it. Like, just you could get, there's so many things that can happen. Let's go on to a positive note though. We've had a lot of negatives, Matt. We don't need that. We've been off for a little bit. Why don't we start with the debuts? Why don't we start there?
Okay, so to give a little background for folks who don't follow the PLL,
Yep.
because there's such a quick turnaround from when they're in college to when the season starts. Inevitably, every year, any of the Canadian players have a little bit of a lag before they can play to work out their work visas and all that kind of stuff. And so we're now 3 weeks in. This past week was the third week. Third week, yeah, third week. And
Yep.
so Sammy English and Michael Grace made their debuts this past week. The Redwoods unfortunately lost, and Sammy didn't necessarily fill up the stat sheet, but you could just see on the field, like, he's doing the same thing he did at SU, where he's running up and down everywhere. A few shots. They actually measure touches in the PLL, which is interesting. So he had very limited touches, but I'm sure he was working the 2-man game, running back and playing defense, all that kind of stuff. So he only had 16 touches. And then Grace had his debut on Saturday. He had one attempted shot and a couple ground balls. And he's playing LSM for them. So he's able to be that run and gun kind of guy. And that shot was actually a 2-point shot attempt. So, and Hiltz will actually make his debut this week.
Okay.
Because last week
they were off.
Yeah, last week the Cats were off. And I'm very excited to see how Hiltz does, because the Chaos's offense has been a little stagnant and like not as I guess flashy is the word I would use, and he adds a little bit of that to it. Pair him with like the likes of like a Jackson Iker and a Josh Zawada and some of those guys. Like, he's going to be a nice piece to add for them. Ross Scott too. Ross Scott's kind of like a jitterbug, quick change of direction kind of guy.
Right.
So, he draws a double, pass it to Hilton. Hilton is going to rip it, So I'm excited to see what he can do.
I want to touch on somebody else on that team that now we have to keep an eye on by default.
Who's that?
There is a son-in-law of a new SU coach.
Oh yeah, Blaze. Yep,
Blaze. That
he got a shout out today.
He did. I heard the little.
Yep.
Not that we're gonna keep up on Blaze, but I just want to give that little shout out to Blaze,
he actually 2 weeks ago he broke the PLL single game save record.
Yeah, and I believe, right, you would know this. I think it was he owned it before.
Yep.
Right? Didn't he own it before, and then he broke it again? And...
So the previous record was 23 saves, I think, and then he had 25, which is just freaking insane. He was the reason they won that game. It was nuts. But yeah, so it all three of the Canadian guys. It's interesting to see because it's
right.
There's going to be some rust initially because they weren't there at training camp. They weren't like. It's going to take some time for them to kind of get into the system of whatever the coaches are running. And also, like, to note, the Chaos are coached by Colsey now too. Like, so there's another little vested interest in that team. So
listen, I might be getting my Chaos jersey in the mail. I'm just going to say it that way. So, fire the cannons, but give me the Chaos. That's all I'm going to say.
And then for the rest of the guys, Stevens ran short stick D mid mainly this past week. He's kind of a back. Right. He's been mainly midfield, but then Danny Logan, their kind of star short stick D mid, went out, so he got moved to. Stevens got moved to more D mid than regular mid. He had a goal, 12 shot, or so far in the season. He's got a goal, 12 shots, 4 ground balls, a couple turnovers, and about 12 touches a game. So he's not the main guy on mid, but he'll get a handful of touches a game.
Yeah. Do you know who the assistant coach is for the Atlas?
Stephen Brooks. Let's go, Brooksy, baby.
There you go. I'm setting you up for that. I had to make sure I was looking it up to make sure that he was still. That's how much I pay attention to the coaches. But
my favorite Brooks moment. Every year, inevitably during training camp, when it's going to be the national championship game, they'll like as the guys are walking by, who's going to win? This team or this team, And Brooks goes, Q's 2026. That's what he said.
He is a treat. That's all I mean. He is a treat.
So that cracked me up.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And then Will Mark is the Atlas backup, so he's not getting any time, but he's the guy running the iPad on the sideline and checking for the replays and what to challenge.
Okay.
So shout out Will Mark for running the iPad. It's typically always the backup goalie that does that. And then Carter Rice has actually been crushing it. I was particularly impressed this past week. So the Redwoods played the Atlas. And for those of you who aren't well versed on the PLL and their rosters and stuff, some of the players on the Archers include Connor Fields, one of the most dynamic players in the league.
Yeah.
Grant Ament, Mac O'Keefe, Tom Schreiber, who's one of the best players to play lacrosse ever. Then that's just 4 of the guys on their offense. And no matter who he was matched up against, Carter did a really good job playing defense. Like stood his ground, did a good job. He's got a couple ground balls so far, and he gets about 8 touches a game. So he really, his touches are like they pass him, and he's a one-man clear up the field. Like he's been doing that a lot more than he did at SU, which that's going to be his job. He's going to pass off the ball and go get off the field. He's never been the like I'm going to run down and shoot and score defensive midfielder. Yeah, which is fine. But that's the reason why he hasn't gotten a lot of like the honors or awards. Yeah, he's just a solid defender, and that's why he got drafted, right? And so he's doing a great job filling his role. So I've been super happy to see how well he's done so far. So other guys to note, I think the only one is Cursed. And it blows my mind that he hasn't gotten a chance to play yet. He's been kind of so. To give a little bit of background, the PL rosters I think are 25.
Double checking. You can vamp per minute. I actually am double checking that.
But they only suit 19 for a game. And then they have 2 that are like protected that could like if someone gets injured in between when they announce the roster or whatever, then they can pull them up to play. And then the others are like out for the week. And if a player is not listed on a roster for a certain amount of weeks in a row, they become a free agent. So I'll be interested to see what happens with him in the next couple of weeks because
I was gonna say you're right on all the counts. I just Googled it really quick. So you got one thing right. Do you know what the free agency is called though?
Player pool.
Okay, there you go.
So I'm interested to see because I feel like that is one thing that the Redwoods need a little bit more help with, potentially some midfield depth. And I feel like he would have been a better option than a couple of the other players that are on the team right now, specifically seeing like when he was in last year, because it was the same thing. He was kind of in and out of the roster last year, but like when he was in, he would produce. So it's like, I don't know what's going on with that or whatever, but hope that if he does eventually end up in the pool, I'm sure someone will pick him up because he's a good player. But I also don't know if he's the main guy running like the Curse Brothers lacrosse stuff. They all do their camps and that kind of stuff. So that might affect his availability. Cause like, I know like, and not to get too into the woods about PLL, but like,
here he goes.
Will Manny is on the Cannons. And the whole talk of last season was he never played for them. He was always on like the PUP, protected roster,
PUP or whatever. What's it called? PUP. Yeah.
And so he made his debut the first week of the season, had a hat trick, and then he hasn't been on the roster the past 2 weeks. But people don't know some of the background that basically his wife is about to pop and have their child.
Is it who's the Utah coach? Is it him?
Right,
you know what I'm talking about.
I know he coaches out in Utah. I don't know if it's for the University of Utah or something, but he like coaches.
It's
out
either
west.
Him or Holman.
I know Dad Holman, Papa Holman was the Utah coach, and he's not anymore.
I think Marcus is there. Don't quote me on that.
I'm not sure.
Just double checking something on that. Because I think one of them is there. Once again, I'm not saying for Alex comes at me. I'm not saying it that way.
No, he's not. Neither of them are.
I way wrong. I thought maybe that was last year. Maybe it was the year. I don't know. Either way, my brain is.
But I know that Will does some kind of coaching and lives out west, anyways.
Yeah.
So, I think that's something that people need to keep in mind too. Is like the PLL isn't quite to the point where their players are being paid enough to just strictly do lacrosse. Some are. A player like a Blaze maybe, or a Trevor Baptiste, or like some of the guys that are the face of the league kind of might be, but like some of those guys, you know, they're making 35, 40K. Like, so they've got other obligations
it also
too. So
notes like Blaze you mentioned is good. Connor Fields is another one. They're playing indoor too.
Yep.
So the combined income probably helps out.
Yep.
But a lot of them are sponsored, to be fair.
Yep.
The East Coast guys, Warrior,
Maverick, all those. Yep. Gate.
I think that's important to note as well for a lot of people that don't understand what those sponsorships means, that they don't have to pay for any of their sticks sometimes. They get them as a perk.
Yep.
And we talked about it a couple weeks ago privately, but I know how much a new stick costs right now, and I'll never buy a new one ever again. Let's just phrase it that way. Like, and
sideline swaps where it's at.
I understand that, but like for people that don't know what that is, sideline swap is the greatest thing ever. Like if you want some Syracuse gear, go on there. I bought a couple things. That's not a free promo. That's just somebody. Matt brought it up, so Matt gets a free sponsor.
It's basically an eBay for sports.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're an expert at that. I bought a couple things off of there from former players. That's
the cool thing is that it ends up being an avenue for a lot of former players to sell their stuff they don't want anymore. Yeah. So there's several players who, like, I know Nate Solomon I've seen on there, Peter Dirth, a handful of guys.
I'm just saying they're reasonably priced. I'll also say it that way. A lot of stuff is.
Well, especially like you'll see some of like the one-offs, like the retro helmets or like some of that kind of stuff, and like they might seem expensive, but considering those are one-offs, like they hold some value to them. So
I think that was actually it, though, Matt. Unless you had anything else.
Yeah, no, I think that's it for now.
We're in a slow time, unfortunately.
No, it's these episodes in the off season are going to naturally just be shorter, anyways, right? Because there's not as much to talk about.
It's not as short as you think. That's all I'm going
to tell you. I can see the clock in the corner. It's almost been an hour still.
I know. I'm like,
because we're two chatty Cathys over here.
Yeah. Matt, I just let Matt stand up on his pedestal every episode. Matt, very happy.
I can just chat for 20 minutes about nonsense.
No, I think like we were saying before, if something crazy happens, we'll do probably an emergency one. I'll just phrase it that way to you. I'm trying to get Tim on. Obviously, talk to Tim and
Tim Leonard or other Tim.
The first one. Think about it that way. Yeah. Because he talked to Reggie and he follows the women's game. So I'm curious to get his from radio. And then also I think I'm gonna reach out to Sam again, the Spectrum News.
Yeah, Sam Crossan, right?
Yep. And she was at the press conference today. So
well, another thing I'll say too is like for the folks who do watch, like if you have a topic you'd want us to discuss or talk about or whatever, like message the accounts, the Instagram or Twitter, and we're happy to look at them. And especially in the off season, like there's only so much to discuss. So if there's something you want us to look at, or let's do a deep dive on the 2009 national championship game, or like whatever, like throw out some ideas. We're happy to hear them.
I will also say the criticisms. Please reach out to me because there's a lot of things I know I do wrong. But if you notice something, or if Matt says some wrong stat, I'll just say it that way. I don't mind being corrected on something like that. In all seriousness, like that's like.
I mean, we've said it plenty of times that we do not view ourselves as experts, so
except for that guy that I'm looking at on camera. That's all I'm gonna say. So
we're just two guys who like SU lacrosse and like to talk about it and aren't afraid to talk about it on
unfiltered. We'll say unfiltered. We'll say, except for Matt, who is sponsored by Splita Lacrosse, and we know he can't say anything bad. So if you're a Splita fan, reach out to Matt. He can get you in contact. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna. Please don't actually do that.
Please don't.
Please don't. Yeah, I think probably I don't know. I'll just say a month from now. Like I think that
we'll post when we're gonna go hop on.
No, we won't. No, we won't. We don't do that. We just
we'll just surprise you.
Yeah, I would say probably a month from now, though. I think that's
sometime in July.
Unless there's some crazy flip commitment for the women's side, which I'm mentioning. I'm saying that very vaguely, just in case that to speak that into existence. That's what I'll say.
Wishful thinking.
Yeah, I don't know anything. But yeah, on that note, I'm gonna my brain is ooh.
You had a hot day to deliver mail, so
it's not a fun day. We'll talk about that when this gets over though. Yeah. So on that note, we're gonna go orange.